The internet didn't just react, it exploded. Out of nowhere, Drake allegedly leaked a brand new diss aimed at Kendrick Lamar. And instead of striking fear or dominance, it sparked confusion, disappointment, and straight-up ridicule. The timing? Suspicious. The execution? Questionable. And the motive? That's where things get really interesting. Because this wasn't just a random leak. Fans immediately began connecting dots to Drake's rumored Iceman era. A colder, more calculated persona has been teasing across social media. Dark visuals, cryptic captions, subtle jabs. The implication was clear. A new chapter was loading. But if this diss was meant to set the tone, the rollout may have backfired in spectacular fashion. Clips of the track spread like wildfire. Within minutes, timelines were flooded with reactions. Some listeners said the bars felt rushed. Others claimed the energy sounded forced. A few even questioned whether leaking it intentionally was a strategic move to lower expectations, or bait Kendrick into responding first. That's the real twist. Was this actually the finished product? Or was it a calculated leak designed to test public reaction? Drake has played the chessboard before. He understands how narratives shift online. A leak creates plausible deniability. If it lands well, it builds hype. If it flops, it can be dismissed as unfinished. But here's the problem. In a post-beef climate where every bar is dissected frame by frame, there's no room for half-steps. The feud between Drake and Kendrick has already produced some of the most talked-about diss tracks in modern hip-hop. Expectations are sky-high. Anything less than surgical precision feels underwhelming. And that's exactly how many fans are describing this leak. Instead of escalating the tension, some argue it diluted it. Instead of sounding calculated and icy, critics say it felt scattered. Memes started rolling in. Reaction videos popped up instantly. The phrase "this can't be real" began trending in comment sections. So what's really happening here? Did Drake intentionally drop something mid-tier to provoke a response? Is this psychological warfare or damage control disguised as strategy? And most importantly, how does Kendrick respond? If he responds at all? One thing is certain, this move changed the temperature of the rivalry overnight. The question now isn't just whether the diss was good, it's whether it was a mistake. When the alleged diss from Drake surfaced online, the reaction wasn't just loud, it was divided, chaotic, and immediate. Within minutes, fans were screen recording snippets, reposting bars, and arguing in comment sections about whether this was a calculated move or catastrophic misstep. And at the center of it all stood one unavoidable name: Kendrick Lamar. To understand why this moment feels so explosive, you have to look at the context. The Drake-Kendrick rivalry isn't just another rap feud. It's a clash of two different philosophies of dominance. Drake thrives on consistency, chart control, cultural presence, and adaptability. Kendrick, on the other hand, moves strategically, surgically, appearing when he chooses and striking with precision. Their previous exchanges set a new bar for modern diss tracks. Fans witnessed layered lyricism, personal angles, and strategic timing that reshaped how rap beef plays out in the streaming era. So expectations weren't just high, they were astronomical. That's why this alleged leak feels so jarring. The track, raw, partially mixed, and clearly not presented through official channels, sounded unfinished to many listeners. The delivery felt less calculated than previous efforts. The punchlines didn't immediately land the way fans have come to expect from a battle-tested Drake. Instead of sounding cold and surgical, critics described it as scattered and oddly unfocused. But here's where things get complicated. Drake is not new to the chessboard of perception. He understands digital culture better than almost anyone in hip-hop. He knows how quickly narratives form online. He knows how leaks can be weaponized. So the idea that this track simply escaped without intention feels unlikely to some observers. Enter the Iceman theory. Over the past few weeks, Drake has been subtly teasing a colder persona, darker aesthetics, cryptic captions, a more detached tone. Fans speculated that he was preparing for another calculated rollout. So when this diss surfaced, many immediately wondered if it was part of a larger psychological play. Was this meant to bait Kendrick into responding prematurely? Was it a temperature check to gauge public reaction? Or was it simply damage control disguised as strategy? Because there's another possibility, and it's the one Drake's critics are leaning into. Maybe this was a rushed reaction. Rap beef is high-pressure territory. Every response is scrutinized. Every syllable is dissected. And in a rivalry this intense, there's little room for mediocrity. Kendrick's recent output has been praised for its precision and impact. If Drake felt pressure to respond quickly, it's possible the urgency compromised the execution. That's what fans are debating in real time. One side argues that a master strategist like Drake wouldn't drop anything unintentionally. They believe this is led, that the leak serves a purpose we haven't fully seen yet. Maybe it sets a trap. Maybe it lowers expectations before a stronger official release. Maybe it distracts from something bigger coming soon. The other side sees something simpler, a Ray stumble. They point to the lack of devastating punchlines. They question the replay value. They highlight moments where the energy dips instead of escalates. In a battle that demands dominance, sounding tentative can be fatal. And then there's Kendrick. His silence adds oxygen to the fire. Kendrick has historically operated on his own timeline. He doesn't flood the market. He doesn't react impulsively. When he moves, it's intentional. That patience gives him leverage in moments like this. If Drake's leak was designed to provoke, Kendrick's silence might be the most powerful countermove of all. Another factor complicating this narrative is audience fatigue. The Drake-Kendrick feud has already delivered massive cultural moments. Some listeners wonder whether continuing the exchange risks diminishing its impact. In rap battles, escalation is everything. Each round must raise the stakes. If a diss doesn't clearly outdo the previous one, it can feel like regression. That's the danger zone Drake appears to be navigating. Still, dismissing him entirely would be premature. Drake has built a career on resilience and reinvention. He's weathered criticism before, he's adapted to shifting landscapes before, and has proven that public perception can pivot quickly with the right move. Part 1 of this unfolding saga isn't about declaring a winner. It's about recognizing how fragile dominance can be in the digital era. One leaked track, intentional or not, can reshape the conversation overnight. One underwhelming moment can overshadow years of strategic positioning. The bigger question now isn't just whether the diss was good. It's whether it was necessary. Because if this leak was meant to tease an Iceman era, it didn't land with the icy precision fans expected. And in a battle where every move is magnified, perception matters as much as but. Part 2 of this unfolding situation forces a harder question. What if the leak wasn't a mistake, but it also wasn't genius either? What if Drake miscalculated the moment? Because here's the reality. Rap beef isn't just about bars anymore. It's about timing, optics, and cultural momentum. And right now, momentum feels fragile. After the last explosive exchanges between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, the bar for quality is at an all-time high. Kendrick's recent diss records were praised for laid writing, focused angles, and ruthless execution. They weren't just songs, they were events. Every line sparked think pieces. Every reference became a trending topic. That level of precision raised expectations permanently. So when this alleged Drake leak surfaced and didn't immediately dominate timelines with quotables, fans noticed. The biggest criticism, it lacked a knockout moment. In rap beef, perception of dominance often hinges on one or two unforgettable lines. Think about the diss tracks that live forever. There's always a bar that cuts through everything else. With this leak, listeners struggled to identify that moment. Instead of sounding calculated, it sounded conversational. Instead of escalating tension, it felt like it was circling it. And that's where the Iceman rollout becomes risky. If Drake has truly been teasing a colder, more surgical persona, this track doesn't fully embody it. Iceman implies detachment, precision, emotional control, the type of energy that freezes opponents mid-sentence. But critics say this record felt reactive rather than calculated. There's also the strategic problem of leaks themselves. When a diss drops officially, it comes with packaging, cover art, mastering, rollout timing, streaming placement. A leak strips away that framing. It leaves the music naked. And when the track isn't airtight, that vulnerability gets amplified. Fans don't judge it as a teaser. They judge it as a statement. And statements in battle mode must be devastating. Another factor complicating things is fatigue. The Drake-Kendrick rivalry has already delivered seismic cultural moments. Some fans feel like the last round settled more than enough. Reigniting the tension requires escalation, not repetition. If this leak feels like a lateral move instead of an upward one, it risks diluting the legacy of the feud. But here's where things get interesting. There's a theory circulating that Drake intentionally leaked a weaker version, either to bait Kendrick into overconfidence or to test public temperature before releasing something more polished. It's a bold theory, and while it sounds strategic, it's also dangerous. Because in rap battles, appearing unsure is costly. Hip-hop has always rewarded confidence above all else. Even when an artist stumbles, certainty in delivery can preserve perception. But when fans begin debating whether something was unfinished, mid, or not ready, it plants doubt. And doubt spreads fast online. Memes have already begun circulating. Reaction channels are dissecting the cadence, the beat choice, the lyrical angles. Some longtime Drake supporters are defending the move as layered and misunderstood. Others are openly disappointed. That split is significant. Drake's strength historically has been cultural control. He dominates streaming. He dictates summer soundtracks. He shapes trends. But battle rap isn't about numbers. It's about impact. And impact can't feel ambiguous. Meanwhile, Kendrick's silence grows louder. If this was a bait attempt, Kendrick hasn't taken it, at least not publicly. And silence in a rap feud can be powerful. It forces the spotlight back onto the instigator. It invites overanalysis. It creates suspense. The longer Kendrick waits, the more pressure builds on Drake to clarify whether this leak was intentional, accidental, or strategic misdirection. There's also a broader industry angle here. Rap beef in the streaming era operates differently. Diss tracks generate immediate spikes in attention, but sustaining that attention requires substance. If the content doesn't resonate beyond shock value, it fades quickly. And right now, the conversation around this leak is centered more on confusion than dominance. That's not the energy you want heading into an Iceman era. Still, writing Drake off would be premature. He's navigated controversy before. He's pivoted narratives before. And he understands spectacle better than almost anyone in the industry. It's possible this moment is simply a prelude, a setup for something sharper. But Part 2 reveals the risk clearly. When you tease cold precision and deliver lukewarm impact, perception shifts fast. Rap battles don't allow for warm-ups. And if this leak was meant to intimidate Kendrick, it may have instead emboldened him, or at the very least, given him no reason to rush. The temperature hasn't dropped, but it hasn't frozen either. And in a rivalry built on dominance, that middle ground might be the most dangerous place to stand. By the time we reach Part 3 of this saga, the conversation surrounding Drake versus Kendrick Lamar, it's not enough to just release bars. Every move must be precise, timed perfectly, and psychologically impactful. And Part 3 focuses on just how complicated that balance has become. Fans quickly began dissecting the lyrics line by line. At first glance, the track hits familiar territory, subtle jabs, wordplay, and references meant to remind listeners of Drake's dominance in mainstream hip-hop. But critics argue that while the bars exist, they lack punch. Where a diss track is expected to sting, this one sometimes reads like commentary. It points out flaws but doesn't deliver the knockout moments that hip-hop audiences have come to expect from Drake in a battle of this magnitude. What's more, the delivery itself has been questioned. Drake's voice, tone, and cadence feel less icy than his previous feud mode tracks. Instead of precision, listeners hear hesitation, moments where confidence should be absolute. And in the digital era, hesitation is amplified. Clips go viral, social media debates flare up, and impressions form faster than artists can control them. One misstep can dominate headlines in a matter of hours, creating a narrative of uncertainty rather than dominance. The timing of the leak further complicates the situation. Rumors about Drake's Iceman era have been circulating for weeks. A colder, calculated persona designed to signal a more ruthless, almost detached approach to music and confrontation. By releasing this track early, and allegedly unfinished, Drake risks undermining that carefully cultivated image. Instead of presenting the Iceman as precise and deliberate, the leak frames him as reactive, scrambling to produce content under pressure. That contrast between persona and execution has fans and critics debating. Is this intentional psychological warfare, or a rare miscalculation by one of hip-hop's most savvy figures? Adding fuel to the fire is Kendrick's response, or lack thereof. Part of Kendrick's genius has always been his control over timing. He chooses when to engage, when to release. Another factor at play is audience fatigue. The feud between these two titans has already generated monumental cultural moments. Previous diss tracks, viral moments, and public commentary set the bar extremely high. Fans and analysts expect escalation, not mere continuation. Releasing a track that doesn't deliver a clear, unforgettable moment risks undercutting the hype. This is particularly true in the era of instant social media reactions, where every line is dissected, every beat is analyzed, and every reaction is documented for posterity. Yet, despite these criticisms, there's reason to believe this leak could be part of a larger strategy. Drake has historically been masterful at controlling narratives. He understands that perception can be manipulated, that ambiguity creates buzz, and that even a seemingly flawed release can serve a purpose if it sets up a bigger move. By leaking a less polished track, he may be priming the audience, lowering expectations, and generating speculation, all of which could heighten the impact of his next, fully produced response. However, this approach is risky. Hip-hop fans are unforgiving, especially when it comes to feuds of this magnitude. Social media has become a pressure cooker where missteps are magnified. If the next official track fails to deliver the anticipated knockout blow, the leaked track could serve as evidence that Drake lost momentum, a narrative that could overshadow the entire feud. In Part 3, it's also worth considering the psychological dynamics. Hip-hop feuds aren't just about talent, they're about control. Drake's leak may be a tactical play to test Kendrick's response, but it also exposes him to scrutiny and critique. The track isn't operating in isolation. It exists in a complex ecosystem of fan expectations, social media amplification, and cultural commentary. Any perceived weakness is immediately noticed, debated, and used as fuel in the ongoing discourse. Ultimately, Part 3 underscores a central truth. In the streaming era, every move matters. A single leaked diss track can spark thousands of reactions, dominate trending topics, and influence fan perception before a fully polished product is even released. Drake's gamble demonstrates the high stakes of modern rap feuds, where strategy, execution, and timing intersect with audience psychology and cultural attention in real time. The question now is whether this leak will be remembered as a masterstroke or misstep. Only time, and Kendrick's eventual response, will tell. Until then, fans are left analyzing every bar, every cadence, and every strategic implication, highlighting just how high the stakes have become in one of hip-hop's most anticipated rivalries. Part 4 of the Drake vs. Kendrick Lamar, the leaked diss track from Drake, has sparked a whirlwind of reactions, some praising the strategic angle, others criticizing execution. But beyond the lyrics themselves, this phase of the feud is defined by narrative control, audience expectations, and the subtle art of pressure in modern hip-hop. Leaks, by nature, create ambiguity. Unlike an official release, which comes with polish, context, and framing, a leak leaves every flaw exposed. Fans and critics dissect every bar, scrutinize every beat, and highlight every perceived weakness. For Drake, that exposure is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it maintains attention on him and stokes discussion about the Iceman era he's teasing. On the other hand, it risks undermining the calculated, icy persona he intends to project. A rushed or unfinished track may signal reaction rather than mastery, and in a battle against Kendrick Lamar, perception is everything. Timing also matters more than ever. Kendrick's silence has allowed the spotlight to linger on Drake's leak. In the history of hip-hop beefs, silence can be a weapon more powerful than words. By not responding immediately, Kendrick forces Drake and the public to interpret every syllable, every cadence, and every delivery choice. Fans speculate. Is this intentional? Is this weak? Is it a test of Kendrick's patience? That uncertainty keeps the feud alive but shifts some of the pressure back onto Drake, who must now navigate both public perception and potential counterattacks. Strategically, the leak may serve multiple purposes. First, it acts as a teaser for Drake's Iceman persona. That calculated, detached energy requires contrast, and releasing a raw, half-polished track could set the stage for a more polished follow-up that hits harder. Second, it functions as a psychological probe. By releasing a track prematurely, Drake gauges reactions from fans, critics, and Kendrick himself. Social media metrics, comment analysis, and trending patterns provide real-time feedback that can inform the next move. In a way, the leak becomes a testing ground, turning the audience into participants in the unfolding narrative. Yet, the risk is undeniable. Hip-hop feuds, especially in the streaming era, are unforgiving. Fans expect each move to escalate tension, dominate conversation, and produce memorable quotables. If the track falls short, it can feel like a misstep, reducing the impact of future releases and providing fodder for critics. Memes, reaction videos, and skeptical commentary amplify the perception of failure. For a feud as high-profile as this, the line between calculated strategy and blunder is razor-thin. Another critical factor is context. Drake and Kendrick operate from vastly different approaches to music and public engagement. Drake's strength lies in visibility, consistent output, and cultural omnipresence. Kendrick's strength lies in timing, precision, and selective engagement. This contrast shapes the dynamics of the feud. Drake's leak plays to his strengths by keeping attention on him, but it exposes him to critique for a lack of precision. Kendrick's silence reinforces his brand of careful control, highlighting Drake's calculated risk and its potential vulnerabilities. Fans, too, are key players. Social media accelerates perception in ways previously unimaginable. A single clip can dominate timelines, inspire countless reaction videos, and shape fan discourse within minutes. The leak doesn't just exist in isolation. It exists in a high-speed ecosystem where audience interpretation becomes part of the narrative. Drake must navigate not only Kendrick's potential response, but also a global audience scrutinizing every bar. In Part 4, the conversation also turns to expectations. The Drake-Kendrick feud has set unprecedented standards for diss tracks. Every release is measured not only against prior beefs, but also against cultural memory. If a diss doesn't elevate the tension, fans perceive a loss of dominance. That makes the stakes for Drake's leak even higher, and explains why reactions are split. Supporters argue it's part of a longer strategic plan. Critics claim it exposes cracks in execution. Finally, Part 4 underscores the psychological warfare at play. In hip-hop, control of perception is nearly as critical as lyrical skill. Drake's leak forces conversations, speculation, and anticipation. As this chapter closes, the key takeaway is clear. This feud operates on multiple layers. It's not just lyrics. It's timing, it's persona, it's audience engagement, and it's strategy. Drake's leak may be flawed in execution, brilliant in psychology, or somewhere in between. But either way, it demonstrates the evolving dynamics of modern rap beefs. And as fans await Kendrick's move, the tension continues to escalate, proving that in high-stakes rivalries, perception can be just as lethal as punchlines. Part 5 of the Drake vs. Kendrick Lamar Drake has been dissected endlessly across social media, reaction channels, and comment sections. Every bar, every cadence, every beat has been scrutinized. And yet, the bigger question remains, what was Drake trying to achieve, and how will Kendrick respond? The first reality to confront is the sheer audacity of the leak. In hip-hop, timing is everything. Releasing a diss prematurely risks diminishing its impact, yet it can also be a calculated power move. By leaking the track, Drake forced the conversation to remain on him while simultaneously testing Kendrick's patience. Silence, in this context, is a weapon. Kendrick's lack of response adds pressure, subtly shifting the narrative so that any perceived weakness in Drake's track becomes magnified. In modern rap beefs, perception often carries more weight than actual lyrical content. Critics have pointed out that the leaked track lacked the punch and polish expected from a battle of this magnitude. Historically, Drake has excelled in creating diss tracks that are both lyrically sharp and culturally viral. This track, however, felt uneven in places, sometimes conversational, sometimes lacking a clear, unforgettable bar that could dominate social media for days. In a feud as high-profile as this, that kind of vulnerability can be dangerous. Fans debate whether it was a rushed response, a testing ground, or a deliberate psychological tactic. Regardless, the effect is undeniable. The spotlight is firmly on Drake, but so is scrutiny. The psychological layer is critical. Drake has historically understood the power of narrative. Every release, every public statement, and every social media tease contributes to a carefully constructed persona. His Iceman era, characterized by cold, detached, and calculated delivery, was meant to intimidate opponents and signal a new chapter. But the leak's imperfect execution created tension between persona and performance. Does Drake appear strategic, or does he appear reactive? That question fuels debate and keeps audiences engaged. In this context, even an imperfect track can serve as a tool, forcing the rival to consider how and when to respond. Kendrick's strategic silence adds further complexity. Unlike Drake, Kendrick thrives on selective engagement. He moves deliberately, strikes when necessary, and allows others to reveal their hand first. By not responding immediately, he shifts public pressure back onto Drake, forcing fans to interpret the leaked diss's strength or weakness. In a feud where every word is magnified, control of timing can be more powerful than lyrical skill. Kendrick's patience creates suspense, and every passing hour amplifies the anticipation of his potential response. Audience reaction in Part 5 cannot be understated. Social media functions as both amplifier and judge. Clips of the leak circulated endlessly, reaction videos proliferated, and memes exploded across platforms. Fans dissected lyrical angles, flow, and delivery, debating whether Drake's approach was clever or flawed. Memes in particular shape narrative perception, often faster than critical analysis. In the streaming era, where attention spans are short and virality reigns, public opinion can pivot overnight. Drake's leak has succeeded in keeping fans engaged, but it has also exposed him to unprecedented critique, highlighting the delicate balance in modern hip-hop strategy. Another crucial factor is the long-term impact on reputation. In a feud like this, missteps are remembered alongside triumphs. A single perceived weakness can define public memory if not addressed properly. The leaked diss risks becoming a reference point for underwhelming execution unless Drake follows up with a track that reasserts dominance. Yet even in its imperfections, the leak has maintained relevance, ensuring the feud remains a top conversation topic across platforms, streaming charts, and sports meets rap cultural discussions. Part 5 also emphasizes the interplay between content and culture. Drake's leak isn't just about targeting Kendrick. It's about shaping how audiences experience the feud. By controlling when and how material surfaces, Drake influences the narrative arc. Each reaction, whether positive or negative, becomes part of a larger storyline that builds tension, speculation, and anticipation. Modern rap beefs operate less as isolated musical confrontations and more as ongoing cultural events, and this leak exemplifies that transformation. Finally, Part 5 underscores the evolving nature of rap rivalries in the digital age. Gone are the days when diss tracks circulated only through radio or physical sales. Today, streaming, social media, and instant reactions transform every bar into a public debate. The leak, whether brilliant or flawed, demonstrates how strategy, psychology, timing, and audience interaction converge to create an unprecedented level of engagement. Drake's move has forced the conversation, tested Kendrick's composure, and left fans hungry for what comes next. As this chapter closes, the critical question remains unresolved. Will Kendrick respond immediately, or will he continue to let the tension build? How Drake capitalizes on the reaction, or adapts to critique, will define the next stage of this rivalry. What is certain is that the leak, intentional or not, has reshaped expectations, kept audiences captivated, and cemented the feud position as one of the most compelling narratives in modern hip-hop. In this high-stakes game of perception, timing, and lyrical mastery, Part 5 reveals that the chess match between Drake and Kendrick is far from over, and every move, every track, and every silence carries enormous weight. Now it's your turn to weigh in. After breaking down the leaked Drake diss and the unfolding saga with Kendrick Lamar, where do you stand? Was this leak a masterstroke of strategy, or did it backfire spectacularly? Comment below with your take, and let's dive into the debate together. Every fan perspective counts in a story this explosive. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit the like button so more people can join the conversation and see the full context behind one of the hottest feuds in modern hip-hop. Don't forget to subscribe for real-time updates, reactions, and analysis as this rivalry develops. Turn on notifications so you're the first to know whenever new developments drop. Because in this feud, every track, every move, and every silence matters, and you won't want to miss what happens next.